Hello everyone and welcome back to the Science Corner. We are still working with Pebbles, sand, and silt. So go ahead and get out your supplies list so we can get out our supplies. The first thing we're going to need is our science notebook. And when I get that out, I'm just going to go ahead and get out my pencil right now. Then I'm going to need my set of rocks, which are those 6 rocks we used last time. I'm going to need my hand lens, which I put in my cup. I'm going to need a cup and I need to fill it with water. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Doesn't need to be too much water. I need a towel. So I'm just going to grab some paper towels. I'm just going to grab 2 just in case. And I need some of my word wall words. So we're going to use basalt. We're going to use tuff and scoria. Go ahead and move your basket out of the way. Don't need my supplies list anymore. Put that back in too. Okay. So today we're going to be washing our rocks and putting them in water to see what happens. So let's go ahead and get our rocks out. So let's make a hypothesis first. So go ahead and open up your science notebook. And let's make a hypothesis. What do you think would happen if we put these rocks in water? Well, let's see. If you put the rocks in water, what will happen? I think that they're gonna sink. And I think that because I've taken rocks and thrown them into the river, and when I did that, they sunk. And I've also seen rocks in pools at the bottom of the pool. So I think if you put rocks in water, it's gonna sink to the bottom. So if you put the rocks in water, they will sink. Because I have seen rocks sink. I have my hypothesis. I said what's going to happen and why I think that. So I said what we're going to do, we're going to put the rocks in water, what I think will happen, that they're going to sink, and why I think that will happen. So those are my 3 parts of my hypothesis. So what we're going to do while we're washing our rocks is we're going to pick one type of rock at a time. So I'm going to go in the same order I did it last time. I'm going to do the scoria, and then the tuff, and then the basalt. So first I'm going to look at the rocks dry, and I'm only going to put one rock in the water at a time. That way, if the water changes, I'll know what happened. So I'm going to start with the scoria, and first I'm going to look at it again dry, because it's been a while since we looked at it. I can see it looks kind of like there's bubbles in it. I can see that there's still some tuff on it from when we rubbed it together with the tuff. And there's still little bits and pieces in it. It kind of looks like a sponge, kind of like SpongeBob. Alright, now I'm going to drop it in the water and see what happens. I'm going to lower it in slowly. Oh, it did sink to the bottom. I can see that there's some bubbles coming off. Nothing else really seems to be happening. It looks about the same as it did when it was dry. It might be a little bit darker, about the same. Let's see if I flip it over what happens. Oh, I can see that tuff on there. Still on there, didn't come off. I think this rock looks like it's getting more colorful. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and take it out. And I'm going to set it on my towel to dry. Oh, it's a lot darker now. It's almost black. Wow. So it looked different in the water than it did when I took it out. I'm going to use the other one and see what happens. So this one you can see is really bright. I'm going to drop it in. Looks more bright. Ooh, lots of bubbles out of this one. So I think scoria might be filled with air because bubbles keep coming out of it. right, now I'm going to take it out of the water. Ooh, yep, same thing. It got really, really dark when I took it out of the water. How about our tuff? I'm going to take my big piece of tuff. My fingers are a little bit wet, so I might get a little bit wet. Still looks like chalk. I wonder what will happen if I put it in water. Because if you think about it, what happens when you put chalk in water? Well, when you put chalk in water, it dissolves, doesn't it? Kind of turns to mush. You think that's going to happen with my tuff? It'd be kind of sad. Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. Let's put it in that water. Oh, it got a lot darker as soon as it got wet. It looks like, too, oh my goodness, definitely, there are pieces coming off of it as it's sitting in the water. All that orange is coming off. It's getting more white. Wow. That was awesome. Alright, I'm going to take it out of the water. Maybe. I can feel, it still feels like a rock, but if I rub it with my finger, that orange is coming off and it's making it more white. I'm not going to do my other piece of tuff because I don't want to do that one yet. I'm going to take my basalt. Alright, it looks, oh, I can already see where my fingers touched it because my fingers were wet. It already turned black. So I could use this to make really cool pictures. If I had a whole bunch of basalt, I could use water and draw pictures on it. Kind of reminds me of what the roads are made out of, doesn't it? You know, if you get the road wet, it turns color? It kind of looks like what this is doing. Let's put it in the water and see what happens. Turn dark, no bubbles, just sort of sitting in the bottom there. Not a whole lot of other stuff happening. My water is cloudy from when I had my tuff in there. It looks really dark. I can see some of the tuff is still on there. But if I wipe it, it comes right off. I'm going to wipe it off in the water. Get that tuff off. Okay, so now I need to pour off this water. But this water is not clean water anymore. It has stuff in it and you do not want to dump this water down the drain. So what I'm going to do first is, for now, I'm just going to pour this water into another cup so I can look at this cup. So I want to see, I'm going to pour it really slow so I can see how my water, so I can see how that stuff in the water is changes when I take the water out. Kind of looks like it's getting stuck on that cup. Alright. And then for the water, I'm just going to take this outside to dump it later. So for now, I'm just going to set it aside. I'm going to look at this cup. Looks like there is lots of red in this cup. Mostly just red. So how did that red get in there? I used clean water. It came right out of the sink. So how did this red get in here? And there's a little bit of dark, like black or brown in there too, like bigger chunks. How did that get in there? Right, it came off the rocks when I put them in the water. So if you dipped a bunch of rocks in this water would be really dirty, wouldn't it? It would look kind of like this, but if you had enough rocks, it's going to be really dark. Oh, you can see there's still stuff floating around in this water too. So if when we put the rocks in water and parts of the rocks came off, what would happen if we kept putting the rocks in water? Right, it's weathering again. Pieces are going to come off and they're going to become dirt and sand. So water can cause weathering. So rocks rubbing together causes it, and water. So if we had enough water, like say we had a river and it was running over rocks all the time, just running, how long do you think it would take for that water to change that land? Probably a long time, because some of these rocks are pretty hard. When we used the basalt, it didn't really change much when we dipped it in the water. Now that might have been a piece of basalt in here, but if that's the only piece that came off, it's going to take a very long time for this water to change this basalt. However, if our land was made out of tuff, then it's going to change very quickly, because as soon as I dipped this tuff in the water, it turned from orange to white. And there's lots of orange left in this cup. If I had tuff covering the river's edge, it's going to wash away really quickly. So it really depends on what kind of rock you have and how tough that rock is. So now let's fill out our paper. Rocks and water. What happens when rocks are placed in water? Well, the rocks changed colors, didn't they? Choose one of the rocks and circle it. I want to talk about the tuff, because I thought that one was the coolest. So I'm going to talk about the tuff. Describe and draw the rock out of the water. Well, my piece of tuff kind of looks like, it's kind of got like some triangles on it. It's orangish. Describe and draw the rock in the water. So I'm going to draw it in the cup. Same kind of thing. And now it's turning white. And there was like orange running out the side, kind of swirling off of it. So I'm going to draw orange swirls, and I'm going to label them orange swirls. You can use any of this extra space to write anything else. Let's look back at our hypothesis. If you put rocks in water, they will sink, because I have seen rocks sink. Was that true? Yes, all of our rocks did sink. However, I would need to add more to my hypothesis, because I learned that if you put rocks in water, they don't just sink, but they also change colors. Now it's time to clean up after our event. I'm going to take that water outside, and I'm going to dump it out outside. I'm going to go ahead and pour it back into this cup so I can dump this water out as well, kind of clean out my cup. I could bring extra water outside to rinse out my cups. I'm going to move my rocks on my towel so they dry a little bit more. They're almost dry. And grab my basket. In my basket, I'm going to put away my things that are dry, so I'm going to take my word wall words, my notebook, I'm going to take my pencil, I'm going to take my magnifying glass, and I'm going to take my two rocks that I didn't use because they're still dry, and I'm just going to leave these ones out until they're completely dry. It looks like my basalt's completely dry, so it dried really fast. These other three are pretty wet still. So I'm going to leave them out, and I'm going to look at my supply list for next time. So part 3, you're going to need your science notebook, your set of pebbles. So not these rocks, I'm going to need my set of pebbles, which is 20-ish pebbles. So let's see if I can find those right here. My 20-ish pebbles. I'm going to need another cup with water. I'm going to need my hand lens, my towel, my word wall words. It looks like that is it for tomorrow. So mostly I just need my pebble and a cup, and then my notebook. So I'm going to take my pebbles and I'm going to put them in my cup. Then I'm going to put this back in. Let's check on our rocks. My scoria is not dry yet. It seems like my tuff is dry. So I'll put the tuff in there, and I'm going to leave the scoria out until it's dry. So once it's dry, I'm going to put it back in that Ziploc, but I'm also going to leave this Ziploc open just in case any of my rocks are still wet. That way they can finish drying and I don't have to worry about them getting moldy. Then I can put this aside. Don't forget to check on your rocks later to make sure that they're all the way dry, and to dump out your water and rinse out your cups outside. That's all for our Science Corner today. I will see you next time with our Pebbles, Sand, and Silt. Bye! I'm going to need a cup, and I need, oops,